Well, welcome again to the class of 2021 for Family Information Night. I am Kara Mueller, your career and college coordinator for St. Louis Park Schools. And we are very honored tonight to have an opportunity to share a lot of information and, more importantly, resources for you to gather information in addition to tonight moving forward. So go ahead and hit the next slide, please. Our agenda for the night is, again, you will be introduced to Wendy Loberg, our principal, Jessica Bussey, our assistant principal, and Todd Gagliai, another assistant principal. In addition, we're going to hear from Laura King, the class of 2021 counselor, on the career and college process for this school year. And then we're going to wrap it up with a great keynote opportunity with Ben Johnson and Nathan Knoll on building your plan. So as we go along throughout our presentation, please use the chat button to go ahead and type in questions. The questions will be shared out to people on the behind the scenes. We will quickly try to answer your questions within the chat, or we will hold off and answer additional questions at the end of our overall speaking parts. If we do not get to your questions tonight, or if you think of additional questions moving forward after the presentations, please email me. And if you can see my email address on the screen, mueller.kara@slpschools.org. Email me with your questions, and I will make sure I forward them and get answers back to you as soon as possible. So let's go and let's meet your team. Next slide. This is the class of 2021 family, students, and everybody who wants to support our students support team at the high school. To be honest with you, it's even bigger than this, but these are the ones you're going to hear from tonight. We have our fantastic new principal, Wendy Loberg. We have an assistant principals, Jessica Bussey and Todd Gagliai. We have a counselor for your students, the class of 2021, Laura King. We have Lauren Buxton, our social worker. You've got me, Kara Mueller, and then you'll be introduced to Greg Whittle. Ooh, I have to apologize. That says White, but it was supposed to say Whittle, so I'm apologizing about Greg. But at this awesome opportunity, I want to introduce you to Wendy. And Wendy, please greet our families.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wendy Loberg, and I have the privilege of serving as the interim principal this year of an amazing school, St. Louis Park High School. I have observed and met so many of the staff and many of the kids when they came in for their one-on-one interviews on the first and second days of school. But this building is filled with hardworking and caring staff, awesome programs, top-notch facilities, and wonderful community support. I've served 42 years in education, 22 years in the Anoka-Hennepin District, 13 years in the Osseo District as principal of Maple Grove High School, and 3 years at the district office. The past 7 years, I've served as an educational leadership consultant in the state of Minnesota. And the past year, I've served as a national on-call bar trainer, building assets, reducing risks, which originated in the incredible St. Louis Park High School. So working here as a principal of a building in a district with only one high school is truly a wonderful opportunity, because working in large districts, we have lots of different high schools. You don't have that opportunity to truly partner with your community to build your dream school. And that's what I feel like we have the potential to do. I am so impressed with the kids, the parents, and the staff I've had the privilege of meeting. I wish I had a magic wand, right, and could wipe this COVID thing right off the face of the earth. But I don't have superpowers and I don't have a magic wand, but I will tell you, I have a staff that's working so incredibly hard to deliver a high quality education to you, our students, parents of our students, in a current distance model. We aren't perfect and we make mistakes and we will continue to make mistakes, but we focus on what's best for our kids here. And we're utilizing the incredible tools and staff brilliance to continually assess how we're doing and make changes along the way and improve as we go, as we endure delivering school in a pandemic. That's where student voice and parent involvement play an important role. We value working with you. We want to partner with you. We want to hear when we're doing things well, and we want you to hold us accountable. We learn together, and we want to hear your voice. Thank you so much for entrusting your kids to us each and every day, whether it's distance model right now, hybrid, or let's hope for full, be certainly as soon as very possible. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. You're going to learn incredible information as parents of seniors. And next, I'm proud to introduce one of our assistant principals, Todd Goggle-Eye.
Hello, I'm Todd Goggle-Eye, assistant principal for 10th and 11th grade this year, and I'm starting my 3rd year at St. Louis Park High School, and I've been in education for 26 years. So I look forward to meeting some of the senior families, because I had the senior class last year, and so I look forward to supporting our admin team and Jessica, Miss Bussey with the seniors for this year.
And I'm Jessica.
There we go. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm Jessica Bussey, and I am proud to be the graduating class of 2021's assistant principal this year. And I am so looking forward to graduation with all of you. No matter what it looks like, no matter how we get there, I just can't wait to see all of you get your diploma and all of your kids get their diploma. And graduation is probably one of my favorite moments. It's the celebration of all that you have accomplished in your life and all of the next step that you're moving forward to. So there's just something magical about graduation. And so I'm excited to be part of the team to help you get there. And I am looking forward to helping you in whatever way that is. I love senior year. I like to talk about the stages of grief with parents as you watch your seniors graduate, but also the celebration of watching them graduate and the 4 stages that the students go through. So I look forward to going through that with you and experiencing all of the highs and the lows with your students and with your families. So welcome and happy senior year.
Yeah.
Next, we want to introduce you to Lauren Buxton, our social worker.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Buxton. There are probably a number of you that I have met, or at least a number of the students, in that I have been their social worker for the last at least 2 or 3 years. We have talked a lot about how strange it is to start this year out, and we are very aware of the social and emotional needs of all of our students and the increased mental health issues that have resulted from being in this distance learning and being, part of the pandemic. So I really want you to encourage you both and your students to reach out to me. If there's anything that I can do to support, really there's no issue that is too small and really no issue that is too big. And I'm here to provide any kind of resources that might be helpful to your family. The best way to reach me is by my Google number. It's on my email, but it's 612-888-5369, 612-888-5369. And I truly look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
And I just shared Lauren's phone number in the chat. And next, I'm honored to turn over the next presentation for Career and College Readiness to the class of 2021's counselor, Miss Laura King. Next slide, please.
Hi there, I'm Laura. I have been working with your students for the past 2 years as their counselor, and I'm really happy to continue that work this year as they're seniors. I know none of us were really excited about the way that the senior year had to start for these kids. We all wanted something different for them. But one thing I know about this class is they are awesome. And no matter what it looks like, it's going to be a great year. I've been fortunate enough to work at St. Louis Park High School for the past 13 years. I've been a school counselor for 20 years, and this is my 4th round of seniors. Here at the high school, we follow our students from 10th grade all the way through graduation, so we get attached. We get attached to the kids, and I can tell you already, I'm attached to your students, and I want to do whatever I can to be a source of help, guidance, wisdom, whatever it is you need as families or as students. I want to be as available as possible. So tonight, I'm just going to briefly talk about a couple resources, but know that there's always the follow-up via email, phone call with me, and I'll also explain another opportunity that I am utilizing to connect with your kids every single week. So first of all, I just want to draw your attention to the website that Ms. Mueller so excellently maintains, and that's our career and college website. We have all things college and career posted on that, including one of the platforms that we use for our college applications, and that is Naviance. So you will find on that site information about how to log into Naviance, how to use Naviance as a tool for college searches, for interest inventories, and that is also the space where your students will request transcripts. So we use Naviance as a tool, as a platform in which to communicate with your students' prospective schools electronically by sending their transcripts, their letters of recommendation, all documentation that your students' schools will need to see goes through Naviance. And the website under number 1, that provides videos on how to use Naviance, but I just want to let you know that I'm also here to serve as support for interacting with that. And one of the ways that I'm doing that, and we had our first one today, is a full day Thursday drop-in Zoom call. And so what that is at your students' leisure when they're available, and you'll see that actually is number 8 on this sheet, from 8:25 till 3:10 every Thursday, I will be available along with 3 excellent interns to field questions that your students may have, to meet with them individually or large group. Some students will use this as an opportunity to work on their college applications and just ask questions as they go along. Other students will show up with some specific questions that they have. Any and all questions are welcome. We had a really nice showing today of students throughout the day. And so just know that that is a resource that's available every Thursday, and we will help in any way we can with career and college questions. So in addition to Naviance, I will be keeping my Schoology updated, and that will be a way for me to communicate en masse to the seniors about anything that's coming up. If you were to look at my Schoology most recently, you'd see some information about the senior pictures and the deadline related to that. You will also see some links I'm using for virtual college tours. You will find information about our financial aid night, which happens to be scheduled for October 1. Again, another Thursday night at 7 p.m. And that's very timely because October 1 is the day that the FAFSA opens. The FAFSA is our free application for federal student aid form. And that is another thing that we can help students complete on those Thursday drop-in sessions. But that's a very important document to complete for all families. It's a way that they are considered for loans, for work study, which is working on campus, and for grant money. So that's an important form, and we are here to support you in doing that. 2 other things I want to quickly touch on: ACT and SAT. I know there's questions out there right now because Unfortunately, due to COVID, those tests have had to be canceled numerous times over the summer and most recently just in September. Our students do have a score from February, but some students want to take another score, another test. Colleges are aware that kids have had a really hard time getting in to take these tests. And as a result, most of those schools are waiving the ACT and the SAT as part of the college application. They are waiving it. Instead, they are looking at letters of rec, college essay, class rigor, GPA, class rank, and all the interesting things about your student that make them unique, whether it's the extracurriculars that they're involved in. And a new essay that is on most college applications is how have they been impacted by COVID? Because that's so relevant to our kids. So while the ACT and the SAT have traditionally been a part of the college application, that is no longer the case. And so I want to just help you relax on that. If you were looking to get that other score, it's not necessary. But if you want assistance in still trying to register, again, that's something I can help you with. And then the last thing I would just like to touch on is that's going to be letters of recommendation. Students can ask teachers for letters of recommendation, and I recommend that they do from either their junior or senior year. And then I will also share that I'm willing to write letters of recommendation. I do have a Google form that I will ask the students to complete to help me with that, so I can write them a really full letter of recommendation. But that is definitely a big part of my job, and I'm happy to write your student a letter of recommendation.
Laura, if I can interrupt real quick, I have one quick question I think you can address.
Yes.
Someone is asking regarding the ACT, if the student took the test in February, will it be sent to the college even if it's waived for that specific college?
Great question. And here's the answer. When your student requests their transcript through Naviance, I will be emailing, I will be following up with your student, and I'm going to ask them 2 questions. I am going to ask them if they want me to send their February ACT. And the second question I'm going to ask them is, do they want me to send their percentages from last semester? Because as you recall, we changed our grading policy last semester, and some students would like to have their percentages sent. Now, those percentages are not on the official transcript. That is an addendum to the transcript, but some students would like their percentages. So I will be emailing your student and asking those 2 questions. And based on their response, I will either, yes, send the ACT from February, or I won't. And I'll either send the percentages or I will not. So I will follow up with each student to find out whether they want those sent or not.
Excellent. And also, we want to make sure the parents understand that there is an actual resource document, a fantastic resource document Ms. King put together. And it's linked for everybody tonight on the Career and College website. You can see the address there. I've also posted the link in our chat. So if you scroll up and look in the chat, I'll continue to post it. But it is an opportunity for you to have a document in which you can link directly to Naviance, directly to the letter of recommendation questionnaire, and a lot of information Ms. King has just shared with everybody. And real quick, Ms. King, I see another question that just popped up. It says, can you explain what you mean by percentages? The GPA or individual percentages for each class?
Thank you for asking that question. So on your official transcript, which includes all of the classes a student took through the end of junior year at this point, so not current classes, but everything that your student has completed, there will be a grade point average and a class rank listed. In addition to that, because we went to a no credit grading policy last spring, while on the official transcript, it will either say P for pass or NG for no grade for that second semester only of 11th grade. Some students would also like their percentages that they earned from that same semester, which happens to be on another document, but it is not included in a student's GPA or class rank. That is a separate document. And the reason those percentages are not included is because we changed our grading policy last semester due to COVID, that since we were in a distance learning format, we needed to change our grading policy. So while those percentages are still a document that some students would like to share with their prospective colleges, they are not factored in to class rank or GPA on the official transcript.
Great. And just a reminder, if you start thinking of additional questions you want Ms. King to answer, feel free to email Ms. King herself, and her email was in the chat as well, or me, Mueller.Kara, and I can help to answer some questions, but Ms. King is your go-to. At this time, I think we're going to move it along to get everybody going on building their plan. Thank you, Ms. King.
You bet.
I have the honor tonight to introduce our keynotes, Ben Johnson and Nathan Knoll. Ben and Nathan have been volunteering with St. Louis Park High School Career and College Readiness Program for the past 5 years. Together, they have an extensive background in helping students and families with their college plans. For the past few years, we have had the opportunity to have Ben come in, and he speaks specifically just to our junior class on helping the students understand their responsibilities and their actions in their plan. And you can see from the picture in the top, the students, they soak it up. They really enjoy their time with Ben. And what we always do is we invite Ben and Nathan back in the evening for our parents. And unfortunately, last school year, our juniors were able to hear Ben, but because of COVID, our parent night was canceled. So I just want to, again, thank Ben and Nathan for their great partnership. And as you can tell, the feedback from the students and the parents has always been very positive. And with further ado, I am going to turn you over to Ben and Nathan.
Thank you, Kara and St. Louis Park High School team. It is a pleasure and privilege to be with you tonight. We have a lot of ground to cover, and we also know that most of you have spent your entire day on Zoom. This is normally a 90-minute workshop. We are going to condense. In fact, the theme we're going to focus is, what are the big things that you should really be thinking about here? College planning and this chapter in life is really complex normally. And then during a global pandemic, it becomes even more challenging. But there are some things you will learn tonight that will actually give you a competitive advantage if you're willing to lean in and do the work. A theme that has been true for all of us the past few months has been uncertainty. And fall of senior year is an uncertain time anyway. We hope that by you participating tonight, you are going to gain a little bit more confidence on some of the things you can control and have certainty over. And so with that, Nathan, I want to thank you again for letting us be here. Very quick who we are. Nathan and I, our full-time job, we are not college planners. We are actually financial advisors. We help people run the gamut. But Nathan and I both have a background in education. In fact, we have a soft spot in our hearts for families in this stage in life and students. Nathan was a teacher at Southwest High School for 10 years. I was a youth minister. We have seen families come through this chapter having made decisions to the best of their ability and wish they had done it differently. And so we feel it's part of our obligation to get out into the community, just like yours, and give some of our time and expertise to equip you with some information that's really going to be helpful. We're with Thrivent. Thrivent's a great organization. Our particular team is called Cedar Cove Wealth. And again, we're really happy to be here. Tonight, setting the stage, we hope that you will walk away knowing a couple things. One of those is you are not alone. You have a great team at St. Louis Park High School. Nathan and I will actually make ourselves available to any family that wants a follow-up Zoom meeting for 30 minutes to ask your specific questions, because we recognize this is a pretty hard time. Nathan and I also believe something is true about everybody on this call. The moment you knew you were going to have your son or daughter, you had somebody to worry about, and you've spent the last 17 or 18 years trying to help equip them for life, and you're getting ready to help them launch at a time when it's really, really uncertain. We are going to help equip you, be ready to have those great conversations and feel confident about what may lay ahead despite the turbulent waters we may face. So we're actually going to start in with a vocab lesson. We don't have any slide materials for you. If we were in person, we would have also saved trees and not printed anything for you. I went to Park Center High School, and so one of the teaching methods I was used to is if something's important enough, the teacher will tell you to write it down. So this is me telling you, I want you to write the following down. Write down the letters COA. It stands for cost of attendance. This is a very important vocabulary term. It is the cost of school. A school will publish their price online, and what you're seeing is the cost of attendance. It's made up of 5 different components you can see on the screen: tuition, books and supplies, housing, room and boards, and personal expenses. It is an all-in number. But what is really important to note, that is very seldom what you will end up paying. There are things schools do to lower your cost, and in turn, they make you feel kind of good as a consumer because you said, it costs this, but they're only charging me this. It's kind of like when you see something on sale at Target, you feel like you're getting a deal. There is some psychology that comes into play here, but we want to teach you about the things that can really drive down your out of pocket. So write down COA equals cost of attendance. We will be coming back to that. Couple important things. College or post-secondary education, it doesn't matter where you go or what you do, it is expensive. The average 4-year public university costs $25,000 per year. Some of you have done the math in your head and said $25,000 by 4 years equals $100,000. Some of these public schools take 5 years or more to get through. The private schools cost nearly double per year. Something you may also want to write down, don't judge affordability of a school based on their sticker price. Some of these higher priced schools have different tools in place to give you discounts, which will actually make it less expensive to go to the more expensive school. More on that to come. If school is so expensive, and it's continued to get more and more expensive, in fact, some of us on this call might remember a time when we could actually afford college and pay as we go and graduate with very little debt. College inflation has run rampant. It is nearly 4 times what regular inflation is. And so one of the questions is, well, why bother? This slide, it comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is evidence that says some form of post-secondary education, whether it's a 2-year degree, a tech school, a 4-year school, a master's degree, the numbers don't lie. You are much more likely to be hired and earn more money. And this is from 2018. It will be really fascinating to see how this plans itself out after we get through the pandemic as we look through this as well. So we would say, yes, it does matter, but we've got to have a game plan for how we do that. I'm going to flip it to Nathan now to talk through some of the next pieces.
All right, thanks, Ben. So when you're thinking about a college plan, there are three main avenues that you need to be thinking about as you even start applying to schools. And you see them up there on the screen, and the career and college staff do such a good job talking about academics and admissions. We're going to focus on financials, but actually, academics and admissions have a lot to do with financials, so we'll talk about how those work together. Next slide, Ben. So for the admissions process, you can set the stage to actually get a better financial aid award with how you go through the admissions process. First off with college selection and what schools you apply to, and then also on how you develop a relationship with your admissions counselor. Next slide. So college selection, there's a college out there for, there's education for all of us. And the real trick is to find something that matches your student as well as possible. The Career and College Center has tools that you can use to look at personality types, interests, and passions. And ideally, you'd have a couple career ideas that you would be looking for, and you can hopefully select a school that has multiple majors that would be interesting, so that you don't end up turning an expensive 4-year proposition into a much more expensive 5-year proposition. And work on the front end can help make timely graduation more likely. Next slide.
That's probably a good segue as well. When there's uncertainty in the world, it is normal as a high school senior to not know what you are going to do the rest of your life. I would imagine if we just did a quick poll by nod of head, if you're doing the thing you thought you would do as a 17-year-old, there wouldn't be a lot of head nods. It's very true for kids these days as well. And so it's important to equip students with what is the end in mind and adaptability. And here's a COVID tip that is becoming more and more important to consider. If you're not sure, there's increasingly more merit to explore something called a gap year, to find out, should we not race to have our son or daughter go to school during the pandemic, or if they're not sure. And so these are great things to explore to make sure you've got a game plan. There's lots of reasons to consider different schools. One of the things we also want to tell you, this is another COVID competitive advantage tip you will want to write down. And it's all predicated on the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Develop a relationship with the admissions counselor. More specifically, your student should develop a relationship with an admissions counselor at the schools they want. And here's why. The information is changing on a daily basis. All the schools are handling it slightly different, and you want a real-time answer as to what's going on. So an admissions counselor will be able to give you those questions. But the real power in the relationship with admissions is to have somebody who now gets to know you. You are not just an electronic application coming through. You are a real person that's developing a relationship through the phone, through Zoom. These admissions counselors are much more likely to want to admit your child if they know you and have seen the student over time. They're much more likely to actually give you better financial discounts if they know you as well. And so we can't hammer this home enough. Developing relationships with admissions is one of the #1 ways to increase the successful college game plan. And this is a competitive advantage because during uncertain times, fewer and fewer students are going and physically visiting college campuses. And when they would visit those campuses, they would meet with somebody with admissions. There are fewer students doing that. If you can motivate your son or daughter to develop a relationship with admissions, they will have a competitive advantage.
Thanks, Ben. Another way to have a competitive advantage with the admissions process is to apply to multiple schools. The number that you should write down for this is 6. It sounds like a lot, and we understand that there's a fee and there's a lot of time that goes into it, but it is time and money well spent, invested even, if you will, because schools are looking to recruit future graduates. They're not looking just to fill the freshman class. They want to find people that are going to be motivated and going to complete school. And one of the ways they do that is when they determine that someone is, a student is someone they want to join their community, is they will look at the financial aid resources that they have and strategically deploy those. They don't just give it out equally to everyone. For example, if someone wanted to go to Marquette University and they had applied to these 6 schools, they would have an ability to sort of drop that in as they're building their relationship with the admissions counselor. And that admissions counselor is going to communicate to the financial aid folks, hey, this is a competitive situation. This person we need to have a sweeter deal for than if a student only applied to Marquette. They may just say, well, this person has no other options, and so we don't need to offer as much aid. Next slide. Here's an example. St. Norbert and Ripon College are rival schools. And so in our hypothetical example, Renee looked at the cost of attendance for both. They're somewhat close, but interestingly, you can't know the cost to you without applying. That out-of-pocket expense is the actual number. And so on this slide, you can see that though Ripon has the higher cost of attendance, it's actually cheaper by thousands of dollars, especially over 4 years, for Renee and her family, for her to go to Ripon. But Renee applied and she built the relationship with the admissions counselor. And so she really wanted to go to St. Norbert and was disappointed to see that it was more expensive. So we'll go to the next slide. And she called the financial aid office and appealed the award and said, I really appreciate the generous offer, but unfortunately finances are a consideration for me and my family. Ripon offered me, this amount. Is there anything that you can do that would help me be able to choose St. Norbert? And that financial aid officer is going to say either we'll think about it, or no, or maybe yes, but the next call they're going to make in that process is to the admissions counselor. And they're going to say, hey, is Renee worth us putting more resources towards her? And in this case, you can see it was a dramatic response. And so a few things with that we'll get into later, but it's got to be the student that makes the call. And I mean, that could be a $20,000 or more phone call, which is a lot of scholarship applications.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to the next slide. All right, and so with academics, one of the ways that you make yourself more interesting and attractive to the admissions and financial aid officers is by maximizing your GPA. To the extent that COVID will allow, raising standardized test scores. And then there are other skills here that you can work on to make yourself more attractive. And then the last one there on the list is earning college credits in high school. And this does a number of things for a student. One is it gives them a leg up, and they can register often at the front of the line versus coming in like most freshmen who have 0 credits. So they are more likely to get the classes that they want and need, which will help them move through the school curriculum in a timely fashion. It also is a great talking point for their discussions with the admissions counselors. So thinking about advanced placement or IB, it's a really great layup question for them to call the admissions counselor and say, hey, I'm good in Spanish. I took this, I took AP, and I'm wondering if my credits will transfer or what that will get me. And you probably can find that on their website, but the website isn't where the financial aid officer will go. So they're going to go to the admissions counselor. So it's a great way without like bragging about yourself to let them know that, hey, I'm serious about this. And here's something that distinguishes me. Go to the next slide. This is a fascinating slide, and colleges are having to rethink some of their reliance on these two, kind of neat and easy, in quotes, ways to predict who will be a graduate. Nonetheless, the information you can get, if it's a strong case, sending that information to them is really powerful. But there are other things you can do, more qualitative things. Again, getting to know the admissions counselor and making sure that they know who you are, what your goals are, and what you've done that maybe isn't, if it's not reflected in your GPA or your test scores. Next slide. And then just to come back to the college credits thing, talk to your admissions counselor. If you have done anything where you get any credits for school, call all of the admissions counselors at the schools and ask them ask them what that could do for you. And some schools it won't do anything on your resume or your application, but again, it makes a really pretty file with the admissions counselor. Next
Perfect.
slide.
I would jump in as well. You may want to write down the following 4 letters, CLEP or CLEP. This is a topic you can Google. This is like taking a AP course and taking the exam and potentially getting college credit without taking the really hard AP class. You pay a small fee to take a test that you may be proficient in, and you can earn college credit. So it can be a really great way to earn college credit ahead of time. One other thing Nathan mentioned too that is very COVID specific. St. Louis, Spring Lake Park High School went to a pass-fail system last spring. There could be another system like that this fall. The colleges are starting to wonder, how does GPA work, or these standardized tests that aren't happening? That translates to an increased emphasis on student character. And how do the schools know who these kids are? Relationships with admissions are really powerful. The entrance essay, also really powerful. Now, one of the things maybe the schools want to know, what did you do on your COVID vacation? I think it's even more powerful to assume most kids are going to write an essay like that. What if you had the student write an essay about how have I been impacted by what's going on in our country with social injustice, or something else that stands out? Because the key here is we want to be different and stand out. So those are a couple other tips that will help you get noticed for preferential treatment, especially at a time when GPA and standardized test scores are becoming slightly less important. There are even some schools that are becoming test optional, meaning they no longer require you to submit an ACT or an SAT test score. They might be fine if you say, I don't want to submit it. That would be another good question for admissions. All right, the financials. We're going to tie this together and help you get a flavor of how the discounts work, how financial aid from a high level works. To start, there's a lot of money that's out there for families. You can see the pie is about $187 billion, with 2/3 of it coming from the federal government, most in the form of loans. And loans from the federal government in general are pretty good loans if you're going to borrow money. Low costs, favorable repayment terms. There's also some grants, and most of the federal money is set up on a sliding scale that says when a family is in a lower financial position, more money is going to come from the federal government than a family that makes a lot of money or has a lot more means. I want to point out another thing as well, though. The purple wedge is institutional grants. This is actually money that comes from colleges. Colleges set aside a big pot of money called an endowment, and they get to decide to whom and for whatever reason they want to distribute this money. The bullet points you see there, the first one is this money goes away, gets gobbled up on a first come, first serve basis. Meaning the sooner the student is exposed to the financial aid officer deciding, are we going to put together an offer, the best chance for this big pot of money. And so I would write down October 1st, which is very soon from now. The very first day you can submit your financial aid package, it's called a FAFSA, is October 1st. Why would you do this as close to October 1st as possible? So you can hold your place in line and get the best shot at this big wedge of money. The other takeaway, Nathan alluded to it, most of this money goes to the students deemed by the school as being the top students. And traditionally, those measuring sticks have been 3 things: high school GPA, standardized test score, and student character or student leadership. That is why we are hammering on that, because we want your student to get the best shot at more than 1/4 of the money that's out there. One of the really interesting thing about how student aid works, this blue wedge right here, you could relabel where it says private and employer grants with the word scholarships. That's scholarships that are out there. A couple things about scholarships. One, it's really hard to get scholarships, even though there's a lot out there. And most families think the best thing they can do is apply to every scholarship and just hope they get one. You might, but the student could be better served trying to improve their SAT score or spending more time with the school, developing a relationship, because they're going after a bigger wedge of the money. Here's the other crazy kicker. Under this thing that says private sources, where it says beware of resource treatment, that applies to scholarships. Most colleges, if you got a scholarship somewhere else, they're going to consider it something called a resource and could reduce what the school was going to give you dollar for dollar. I'll give you an example. If a school came up with a package and said, here's $10,000 of financial aid, but then they find out you got the Distinguished Alumni JC scholarship from St. Louis Park for $2,000, that school, if they consider the scholarship a resource, would say, we were going to give you 10, but you did a good job and got 2 of it on your own, so we're going to reduce our offer down to 8. And the student worked really, really hard to get money they might have already been entitled to. So that might be another really good question that you could ask these admissions counselors is, if I get an outside scholarship, how do you view that? Nathan referred to this as layup questions. We want to equip the students who are developing relationships with admissions to have easy questions that they can ask and write down ahead of time so it's not so uncomfortable for them to start talking and have a reason to call admissions. How do you apply for financial aid? You fill out this thing called the FAFSA, stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. You may want to write down the website there or take a picture with your cell phone. It's pretty easy to find. It is something you complete online. You can actually start pre-filling it out now. You just cannot submit your information until October 1st at the earliest. And as you fill it out, you list the schools you want your information to get sent to. The FAFSA gathers a lot of information about the family, most notably mom and dad's financial position and student's financial position. Once that gets submitted, the Department of Education runs your numbers through a formula and spits out a number called your expected family contribution, or EFC. You may want to write that down. EFC equals expected family contribution, because we're going to come back to the other vocab term we taught you, COA, in a minute. But that EFC is going to drive how much financial aid you may be eligible to receive. By the way, if we were live, we would pop quiz and say, when's the earliest you can fill out the FAFSA? October 1st. Why would you fill it out as close to October 1st? You want that first come, first serve money. There's 2 types of financial aid, one that is merit-based and one that is need-based. Merit-based says we don't care about the family's financial situation. If there's something compelling about the students, their extracurriculars, their ability to play music, their athletic, their academic, you name it, if the school wants to make up an excuse to give you money, they can, and they don't have to look at your financials. That's merit aid. Every student is eligible for merit aid, ... as long as you fill out the FAFSA. Most schools will say if you don't fill out the FAFSA, we are not going to consider your student in the running for merit aid. So for any families on the line that think we might make too much money or have too much money to qualify for financial aid, and you think you're not going to fill out the FAFSA, you're right. You probably won't get need-based aid and just knock yourself out of even eligibility or consideration for merit aid. So everybody should fill out the FAFSA. Need-based aid does look at the family's finances and wants to find out, is there some extra money we should give? And here's roughly how it works. So let's go back to our vocab. Cost of attendance, or the sticker price of a school. So let's pick on the U of M. It costs roughly about $25,000 per year, all in. And let's say Nathan's family runs their stuff through the FAFSA and their EFC, or expected family contribution, is $10,000. The U of M financial aid office is going to say $25,000 minus $10,000 is a gap of 15. That's called your financial need. This is the amount, financial need, that the financial aid office can help up to in the form of free money and merit money. So every school looks at this a little bit different. We are going to show you an example of why you should not judge affordability of a school based on their sticker price. This is the second time we've said that. If you haven't written it down, I would write it down. Don't rule out applying to a school based on cost of attendance. Nathan said this earlier. It's not until you apply and find out what the school actually offers you that you'll be able to judge affordability. And here's why. School A versus School B, if you look at cost of attendance, School A is more expensive by $10,000. But what you don't know about School A until you actually apply is School A is one of these schools that has a big endowment, and they've said, we want to help people out. If there is a gap, we're going to give a lot of free money to the student. So much, in fact, that they're going to give you about $20,000 per year, free. School B, a lower sticker price, but School B says, you know, we have a lower price, we can't give away as much free money, and so we're not going to give away as much money. And so what do you actually end up paying at these schools? School A, your out of pocket is going to be $15,000 per year. It's going to be your $10,000 of expected family contribution and the $5,000 the school didn't give you in the form of free money, but that $5,000 they actually gave in the form of really nice loans. School B, which on paper was the less expensive school, is actually going to cost you truly $20,500. That's $5,500 more per year to go to the less expensive school. And let's do the math again. If it were a 4-year collegiate experience, that's a $22,000 difference. One of the other crazy things about schools like School B, the 4, 5, 6-year graduation rates, which is a measure of how quickly a student gets through the school, usually students aren't getting done in 4 years, they're getting done in 5 or longer. And so you, by choosing the less expensive school by sticker price, could have ended up costing your family 20 to 30 grand without realizing it. Which ties back into Nathan's point, apply to at least 6 schools so you actually can get a number of offers to evaluate where is their real value. Couple other things that are important, and this is another COVID tip. We talked about the gap year, but another really compelling strategy for some students is maybe you don't go to a traditional 4-year school out of the gate. Maybe you pick a local community college, which costs much less, while you're doing things like your generals. Let's say a student wants to be a forensic accountant, and I don't really know what that means other than that's a job I don't think I will ever have. But forensic accountant requires a basic math class. You could take that at a local community college, pay a lot less, and if you're really smart, those credits will transfer over to the traditional 4-year school when you're ready to go. Big key thing to pay attention to here, you're going to want to make sure if you do any work at a community college, that it will actually transfer over. And the key person you could ask, if this is a thing, this is another layup question, your friendly admissions counselor. This is, again, another reason to consider maybe gap years, but we tell students that when we sit down with them, you want to have a very compelling reason for the things you do from graduation. You want to turn it into a strength, not a, I don't really know what I want to do, so I'm just going to kind of aimlessly take some classes. You want to be able to weave and tell a story that can springboard you for when you're ready to go to the 4-year school or the next school you want.
Very good. So we are going to dive just a little bit deeper into what that expected family contribution entails. So there are 2 main parts that the FAFSA uses to determine your expected family contribution. One is income, and the other is assets. Those things are treated differently. Income weighs more heavily and will drive the expected family contribution higher, faster than assets. But generally, making less money when your kid's about to go to school isn't a great strategy for making school more affordable, although sometimes it happens, and there are ways that you can deal with that. But on the asset side, there are a number of things that can hurt you without you realizing it. And so it is possible for some people to lower that expected family contribution. The other thing is students' income and assets as well. So those get added together for the total expected family contribution. There's a lot of strategy around if money should be held in student's name or parent's name when you hit submit on that FAFSA form. With the income part of the FAFSA, they use your tax return from the previous year. So this year you'll use your 2019 tax return, and then it'll be for next year's school year, so that lags by 2 years. The asset part is whatever's true the day you hit submit on the FAFSA, what you have in your bank account or different whatever kind of assets you have. So there's strategy around that part. Also, sometimes you can lower your expected family contribution, but it might not make sense to, depending on what other financial goals you have. So that one has a lot of caveats and it depends. And that's something that we can estimate for you during the follow-up, if you'd like, and see if there's, if it makes sense for you to consider some of the things you might do to lower that number. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so if you don't get as much aid as you expected, that's where that appeal process comes in. And if you applied to multiple schools, you'll be in a lot better position to judge if this award is reasonable or not. And it will also give you, it'll give you leverage in the conversation rather than just, but I would like more, or it's still expensive, which is unfortunately true a lot of the time. When it comes to this appeal process, you don't use the word appeal. You definitely don't use the word negotiation, but your student calls financial aid. You want to be very positive with it, show gratitude, and not any sense of entitlement, because that will turn them off and they have a limited amount of resources. You want to make it easy to say yes. So again, leading with gratitude and saying how excited you are to be a part of their college community. School X happens to be a competitor maybe, is offering me this. Is there any way, is there anything you can do? I really want to come to your school. And then listen and see what they say. But it can be a great, just a great way to impact the financials. With the saving for college, a lot of times college is a retirement problem in disguise. Ben and I both did the math on how old we'll be when our youngest are done with school. It's like, oh, that's pretty close to retirement. And a lot of times people will approach it sequentially because they're big numbers and it's kind of hard to get your arms and mind around. And so they'll say, well, let's pay for school and then we'll just figure retirement out. But we help people untangle the wreckage of that approach quite often. And so any planning you can do on the front end as you're putting together this plan with an eye towards how it will impact your retirement will put your family in a better position, because they don't make loans for retirement. And even if you know, a lot of families have a goal of getting their students out with little to no debt, and that is awesome if it's possible. But ultimately, you need to be able to take care of yourselves as well, and your students will have decades and decades to deal with student loans, whereas you probably don't have decades and decades before retirement a lot of times.
So we have taken, this is normally a 90-minute conversation. We've tried to compress down into 30 to 40 minutes. I'm sure we're getting close to getting Zoom fatigue, but we want to pull a couple things out. One, you are not alone. You have a great team available to you through St. Louis Park High School. Two, we're happy to be a part of this team. One of our give backs is this idea that any family that's on this call, they'll want a follow-up conversation that's unique to your family. We're happy to give that time. We feel that's pretty important because there's still a lot of uncertainty. If we went back to the FAFSA reporting, if any of you logged into fafsa.ed.gov tonight and started going through the questions, you might get stuck on the one that says, what are your asset totals? And you might say, does that mean I report my 401k? What about cash in the bank? What about 529s? It's confusing. Or what about situations where mom and dad are divorced? Or what if multiple kids are in school at once? Every family is very unique, and we feel a good plan is one where the student is empowered to really own their future. Mom and dad are educated around what are the realities of financials, and it starts with finding out what is your expected family contribution, and then a dialogue or platform around how do we, as parents, help our kids make a decision that is going to be one of those major financial decisions they make in their life. So we'll pass it to Nathan here in a second so you can learn how, if you want to connect with us on a free follow-up session, to do that. And then we've left time at the end for some questions and answers that Kara and Laura will moderate.
Excellent. So as Ben said, we're offering a 30-minute follow-up call to estimate your expected family contribution and to see what's driving it and if it may make sense or if there's anything that you can do to lower that number. To do that, you can email on the screen there or call, and we'll set up a Zoom meeting. You'll need access to your 2019 tax return to estimate the income part of it, and then a list of your assets. So we can help you know what some of those numbers are, as well as touch on should you be thinking about some of these things. So again, feel free to email us there. With that, I'll turn it to Kara, and we'll take some questions.
Thank you very much, Ben and Nathan. We so appreciate all your valuable information and your time. Quite honestly, as we've been going through and the few questions that have popped up, we've been able to respond to without any issues. We've known the answers. I have, one question just popped in. It says, if my son has AP passing scores in Spanish, do they also need to take the CLEP exam? Oh, and then they're also asking about how are Raise Me funds considered? So Ben and Nathan, do you know the Raise.me funds?
Yep. Nathan, do you want to take it or do you want me to take it?
Go for it, Ben.
So the first question about the AP classes and the CLEP, this is going to sound like we're going to beat a dead horse, but the admissions counselor will be able to tell you any work you do ahead of time that you're trying to get college credit, will that school give it? For example, some schools don't care how high a score you get on a particular AP exam. They're not going to give you credit. Other schools may say we take AP and or CLEP or just one or the other. And so before you pay money to have your student take a test, I would definitely contact the school to find out what's your stance on this. And don't assume that one of your 6 schools tells you one answer and that applies across the board. Talk to all of them. Regarding the Raise Me, how that works, that's like when people are gifting money to a student. It's actually no different than if grandma and grandpa are sitting there saying, we'd like to gift you some money. Technically speaking, the student has to report that on the FAFSA as untaxed income. And if any of those dollars are in their bank account and their name the date you fill out the FAFSA, they also have to report it as an asset. And it can be a double whammy. The good news is it's free money. The bad news is it will reduce how much financial aid you receive. And so there are strategies around the timing of when the student actually becomes in receipt or possession of those funds to minimize their impact on any Raise Me funds or gifting dollars from a loved one.
Thank you. I've got another question that's popped up. What should we do if a parent became unemployed during 2020 as it isn't reflected on our 2019 tax return?
You want to take it, Nathan?
Yeah, great question. So there's an appeals process that you can go through, and that is with the school that you reach out to make sure that they know that your income is not accurately reflected in the FAFSA.
Okay, and then I'll just, we've got another question here. It says, on the College Board site, the expected family contribution calculator, is that annual? And why the 2 amounts? I guess, I'm not sure if all EFC calculators are the same.
I'm not sure I understand the question, but if I can extrapolate what I think is being asked, there are lots of different ways you can attempt to estimate your expected family contribution. The main thing you're looking to do is actually find out how much is college going to cost us. And one of the risks you run in using an online calculator is you might incorrectly report the information and get an incorrect sense of what is my actual EFC. For example, you might over-report something which makes your EFC higher, and you assume, oh my gosh, we're not gonna be able to afford it. Or worse, you under-report it and assume you can afford things. So if you're gonna do something on your own, you probably are gonna wanna do some research on how do I fill these out. Another strategy could be to go to your school website and look for their net price calculator. This is another online tool that allows you to try and get a flavor of how's the school going to view us as a family. But again, that's also kind of messy. Some schools use a very lazy formula that's not very precise, and others are very prescriptive. But I would not lean on what those net price calculators output to set the table for what you will get. It'll only probably set your expectation, and you want to make sure that you've got a pretty broad view. Nathan, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, just one thing that that expected family contribution is an annual amount. So that's each year that you have a student in school. So if you're lucky enough to have your kids bunched up and they all go through school together, that amount doesn't change. That's what your family is expected to contribute. And so you can divide that by 2 or divide it by 3 or however many of your kids are in school that year, the number stays the same.
And we have another question here. It says, I am curious, 403B contributions and balance are not reported on the FAFSA, right? Assets then are basically investments, liquid assets, and so on? Question mark.
That's an excellent question. It's partially right. The 403B is like a 401k or an employer-sponsored retirement plan. Most schools, actually all schools, take the FAFSA, the federal form. And on the FAFSA, employer retirement plans, you don't report the value of the asset. However, any contributions you are putting into those plans, you saved money on taxes that year, and the FAFSA actually asks you to report back untaxed income, which those would be. So contributions actually have to get added back in the year you did it. One other talking point, some schools are even a little bit more clever and they say, yep, fill out the FAFSA, but we've got this other set of questions we want your family to answer. It's called the CSS profiles. And that's where they can, all bets are off. They can ask for retirement assets, equity in your home. If you're divorced, they can ask for the non-custodial parents information. So you're definitely going to want to know how each school treats your family situation.
And then to Kara and Laura, a family is asking if, because of ACT constantly getting pushed back and rescheduled, they want to know, are there any more opportunities to take the ACT? And also said, took the ACT in February, but wanted another shot at it. Oh, Laura, you're muted. Okay. There, if you go to ACT.org, all of the test dates and specifically the test dates for Minnesota can be there. But you know what? I have your name who asked the question, and we can get that answer to you tomorrow.
Yeah, I would second what Kara is saying. If you go to ACT.org, you'll be able to see that the next test date, I believe, is October. Now, we may be past the time to sign up without paying a late registration fee. So you may want to, if you really want to take it in October, there may be still a late registration fee. One tip I would maybe recommend is the metro area. They're kind of canceling the tests, but I have heard that students have had luck if they're willing to go outside the metro. Like I had a student that went to Victoria, Minnesota to take the test. Some kids are even going like out of state at times to take the test. So there's certain places that haven't yet canceled. I know for myself, I have a son who attends Washburn High School in Minneapolis, and they've had to cancel the last 3 ACTs because of distance learning. So you may want to look at locations where they're doing, they have school that is operating as it typically would, and then the odds of them actually having an ACT on site are higher.
Thank you, Laura. A question for Ben and Nathan. It said, could you please reiterate what falls under assets? Restate what falls under assets.
Sure. So for the FAFSA, retirement balances don't count as reportable assets on the FAFSA. They don't expect you to clean out your retirement funds and take tax penalties to pay for school. Contributions to those accounts do. Any non-retirement investments you have, cash in the bank, some of that gets protected based on the parent's age, but all of those things are reportable. 529 accounts are reportable if they're held by the parent. If they're held by the grandparent, they're not reportable as an asset, but then they would be reportable as income to the student, which there's a lot of strategy around if that makes sense and when you might do that. So there can be some opportunity there. And then with the institutional methodology or the CSS profile, lots of things count on that. They really want to know what you have going on.
Okay. Well, in the sense that questions have slowed down, I think we're good. Ms. Bussey, I should check real quick. If you're seeing any other questions, you can red flag me if you have any other additional ones. Nope. But at this time, oh, Jessica?
Here.
I don't have any other questions.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay. Well, for the sake of everybody's time, families, students, thank you very much for participating in our family night. You have multiple resources and people you can reach out to for help. We want to especially thank Ben and Nathan again for partnering with us this year. Your information is so valuable for our community, and we just want to extend our gratitude and great thanks for all that you have done and offered to us. And if any other families need any other help, please remember to reach out to Ben and Nathan and or your school team. Ms. Bussey, do you have anything else?
We will be posting a bunch of different frequently asked questions from all of the different family nights, as well as a video of this session so you can rewatch all of this. And then you can also watch any of the other family nights if you would like to do that as well. Everything will be online tomorrow afternoon. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. It was great to see everyone and have so much family involvement.
Absolutely.
It was great. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.